Okay, I would like to give some guidance on procedures that we're going to use today in this public hearing on the wind ordinance, proposed changes on these wind ordinances. Number one, there'll be zero tolerance for any outbursts. If you have any outbursts in here, you will be escorted out. Zero tolerance. Turn off cell phones. We don't want any interruptions on your cell phones, or turn them down. And first of all, I would like to thank the zoning board members for the hours they put in to get to this position where we're at. And I'd also like to thank the public for their participation in this, because it's been really an eye-opening experience for myself sitting there for the many hours that we've done and the many hours of research that's been done. The limits will be set. We have an agenda. We have 22 speakers on the agenda right now. They are limited to 3 minutes on your presentation. You may have to paraphrase. If you concur with somebody else, the previous speakers, just concur so we can continue this process. The presentation, there will be a roll call vote only when we go into session, so you know exactly how this is. And when you speak into the microphone, hold the microphone up to your face, because if you're turning around looking at the crowd or anything like that, stay with the microphone. Like I said, there'll be we're leaving at 3 minutes. It'll be roughly an hour or a little better for testimony. All questions will be held by the board members till after all testimony has been heard. We will allow a half hour for that, and then we will take a 5-minute recess for people to stretch their legs, have a restroom break, whatever. After that, then we'll go into the board discussion on the pros and cons of the ordinance changes as proposed, or any amendments, or whatever comes out of that. We will be trying to adjourn at 4 o'clock. So we're not going to have a marathon session here. And we're going to be using Robert's Rules of Order, which is similar to what the legislators use for bills that are being presented to committee. If you're familiar with that, this is the process we will be using. You will address through the chair or be recognized by the chair. And one other thing, be courteous and respectful, because this has been a long, hard process for the board members and for the people that have been involved. So, thank you. At this, I will call this public hearing to order. I would like to have a motion to approve the agenda. So moved. Motion by Commissioner DeYoung, seconded by Commissioner Rohde. Roll call vote. Commissioner Rohde. Aye. Commissioner Dumke. Aye. Commissioner Peterson. Aye. Commissioner DeYoung. Aye. Commissioner Yeager, aye. Agenda has been approved. Also, I would like a motion of consideration for the proposed wind ordinance changes presented by the zoning board.
I so move to adopt them. Or to
Consider.
consider, yes.
We have a motion of consider by Commissioner DeYoung. Do we have a second? We got a second by Commissioner Dumke. Okay, same procedure. Commissioner Rohde. Aye. Commissioner Dumke. Aye. Commissioner Peterson. Aye. Commissioner DeYoung. Aye. Commissioner Yeager, aye. At this time, we will proceed with the public hearing. The first on the agenda is Jared Gass for Dwayne Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of Dwayne Thompson, most of what I have to say was set forth in the letter I sent to you all on February 23rd, 2017. Hope you've all had a chance to read and digest what I set forth in that letter. Your current ordinance and the recommended changes are ill-prepared to handle the onslaught of wind development that is about to consume Deuel County. Changes need to be made, and the recommended changes don't go far enough. Before enacting change, it's important to look at the purpose for zoning. The South Dakota law, as well as your zoning ordinance, sets forth that zoning is for the purpose of promoting the health, safety, and general welfare of Deuel County. Nowhere does it say that your proposed ordinance or your changes to the ordinance should protect the wind developer's bottom line. It's for the health, safety, and general welfare of the residents of Deuel County. To do that, you need to enact reasonable and defensible, the key words there, reasonable and defensible zoning regulations. Specifically, the issues I addressed in my letter, and I'll address each of them shortly here today. Number one, and the most important in my client's view, is trespass zoning. Currently, the zoning ordinance and the recommendation sets the setback limit to a residence of a property, not the neighboring property line. I call this trespass zoning. It essentially grants a wind developer trespass privileges related to noise, shadow flicker, and nuisance on a neighboring non-participating property. My clients view this as a taking of their future developmental rights without consent or compensation. It would not be uncommon to imagine a scenario in rural Deuel County where an individual owns 20 acres, son or daughter graduates high school, from technical school or college, wants to move back and build on that acreage. If there's a neighboring wind tower zoned to the existing residence, then all of a sudden the future development of that property is in jeopardy, because if they build a new home, now all of a sudden they are within the previously existing setback. A taking, this would be viewed as a taking of property without consent or compensation, and that's a recipe for litigation. My clients do not want to proceed down that path, but they will if they need to. You've got an opportunity to fix that by simply moving the setback to the property line instead of the residence. That's first and foremost. In terms of the setback, the general consensus is that the setback should be moved. Even the wind developers agreed to the 1,500 feet. There are still some people that say it shouldn't be changed in spite of what the wind developers say. The issue is 1,500 feet is not nearly enough. You need more information to make an informed decision on setbacks. Do we know exactly how big these wind towers will be? Do we know the specific safety regulations regarding the proposed wind turbines that are going to be placed? Do we know the manufacturer's recommendation in terms of a safe zone? I assume that's 3 minutes? Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gass. Mark Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and fellow commissioners, for allowing me the opportunity to speak before you today regarding this exciting economic development opportunity for Deuel County. I'm Mark Schmidt from northwest of Gary, representing Deuel County Agricultural Development Incorporated. First off, I want to make sure we all understand the definition of economic development. Economic development is defined as efforts that seek to improve the economic well-being and quality of life for a community by creating and/or retaining jobs and supporting or growing incomes and the tax base. Economic development, as we traditionally know it, has left Deuel County and other rural counties decades ago. The odds of us recruiting a large industrial employer with 100 or 200 or more jobs is just about impossible, as prospective employees are going to look at counties with larger municipalities, as it's much easier to recruit and retain employees. The larger municipalities also provide significantly more opportunities for their employees during non-working hours. Those are the facts, and there's unfortunately nothing we can do about it. But these are the facts of the opportunity that Deuel County has today. The proposed wind projects for Deuel County are approximately 910 megawatts. Deuel County has probably the largest area of harvestable wind in the state of South Dakota. The CapEx 2020 project has provided us with a vehicle to export the electricity to the large metropolitan areas. The proposed 910 megawatts will create 55 to 60 new local jobs once operational, with an average salary in the low to mid $50,000 range. Invent Energy's payments to local landowners will be approximately $3 million annually. Take this times 3 for the proposed 910 megawatts. Deuel County Agricultural Development estimates that the annual impact to Deuel County from the 910 megawatts would be approximately $16,760,000 per year. According to the state of South Dakota Department of Revenue, based upon nameplate generation for 910 megawatts, the local entities would receive $2.7 million in taxes annually. Deuel County would receive approximately $955,000. The local townships would receive approximately $409,000, and the local school district would receive $1,365,000 initially. Our current zoning ordinance follows the guidelines as set forth by the state of South Dakota, and I was asked the commissioners to vote no on the proposed ordinance change from the zoning board. And let's begin harvesting our natural resources and create economic development for all Deuel County residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. Mr. Gass for Brenda Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Parlaying on what I said on behalf of Mr. Thompson, how do you as commissioners fulfill your duty ensuring that zoning regulations promote health, safety, and general welfare while also being reasonable and defensible? The answer is increased setbacks with a waiver option. Put everyone on the level playing field in negotiating with the wind developers. Currently, wind developers do not have to negotiate with non-participating landowners. All they have to do is meet the setback. If you want to protect Deuel County citizens, zone for increased setbacks with allowable waiver to the turbine manufactured required safety zone. It should be each affected landowner's decision whether they want to participate in the neighboring industrial scale wind farm, not forced upon them without consent or compensation. Wind developers will prefer to leave this decision to you as the board. However, by creating a zoning structure that protects health, safety, and general welfare, as well as increased setbacks and a waiver, you can now put these decisions in the hands of the folks of Deuel County. Increased setbacks with a waiver will not, quote unquote, kill wind. It will relieve you of the burden of deciding these very strenuous issues, and it will put every property owner in Deuel County on a level playing field. It will force the wind developers to negotiate on a level playing field with the property owners affected. Remember, keep this in mind. You do not owe the wind developers anything. However, you do owe the citizens of Deuel County a duty to enact reasonable, defensive zoning regulations that promote the health, safety, and general welfare of Deuel County. Increased setbacks with a waiver for non-participating landowners will accomplish that. I would ask the board to deny the current recommendation and make amendments such that increased setbacks are in place with the option of waivers for non-participating landowners to become participating pursuant to the negotiations they can have directly with the wind developers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gass. Next on the list, Deuel Thompson.
I'm Deuel Thompson from Gary, South Dakota, and I'm ceding the floor to Mr. Jim Nichols from Lake Benton, Minnesota. He's a farmer, an 8-year senator from the state of Minnesota, as well as the 8 years of agriculture secretary under Rudy Perpich. And he's also been a commissioner in Lincoln County, and he's lived this world a lot longer than any of us. So here's Mr. Jim Nichols.
Thank you. Just very quickly, Mr. Chairman, and I come here as a fellow county commissioner, and we developed a long time ago. We first built our turbines in 1994, a very good zoning ordinance that was very fair to the adjoining landowners and also helped us develop our industry. I should retire from farming, but like you here, hard for me to turn it over to younger generation because we don't have very many of those. What we do have, and thank God we have it, we now have 50 younger generation people working in good jobs, 50 permanent jobs in Lincoln County in the wind industry. And several of them went to Watertown and Canby to the technical schools. But very quickly, Mr. Chairman, as a county commissioner, and you got your handout in front of you, I think, for me, don't you? This one, Doyle? And as you see there on the first page, that was just a check that we received as county commissioners a few years ago for $7.2 million. Now we receive $10 million every year as a county from the wind turbines, and our landowners receive some less of that, but it's an excellent payment. And as a county commissioner, our budget was $3 million in Lincoln County. Our payment from the wind turbines in the county was $1 million. So we're able to keep our taxes down on everybody because of that. Now we are so grateful. We are the first and largest county in Minnesota to have wind turbines, and it's truthfully has been the best thing that ever happened to us because it kept our taxes down, created jobs, and we were able to have a fair zoning ordinance that helped everybody. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I want to talk a little bit about your wind turbines. We have these in Lincoln County now, 2.6 megawatts. Each one of those generates $20,000 in payments to the local property tax and the farmers, $20,000 per turbine. And we just now also, because of a federal tax credit, our turbine's been running 20 years. They're going to run another 20 years because with the federal tax credits, we're going to rebuild the turbines, the generators and gearboxes. So we're going to continue to collect that $20,000 from those turbines for 40 years. For one turbine, that's $800,000. Take 40 times the 20,000 because we do it. And in your county here, if you get 100 turbines, that's $2 million into the county, of which about half will go to your school district. What this has done for our school districts is absolutely incredible. We now have some kids in our schools, and we've had to close 3 high schools. I know what it's like. And now we have our money for the counties, the turbines, or the school districts as well. Now, this, to show you the development opportunities here, wind energy is the cheapest power in America. We're now generating it for almost a little over 2 cents per kilowatt hour. As a farmer,
We
I
have a
pay-
3-minute limit, sir.
Okay.
Thank you for adhering for that. Next on the list, Ron Rude.
Ron Rood from Lake Cochran. At the commissioning board recommended 2 zoning developments, and we're setbacks, we're suggesting 3, based on, number 1, minimal development potential very limited. According to South Dakota Game Fish and Parks, Bullhead Lake has a surface area of 571 acres with maximum and mean depth of 11 feet and 7 feet respectively. Bullhead Lake has a small lake park district on the north side, has a public access site which includes a boat ramp, public toilet, and northwest corner of the lake. We recommend a minimum of 1 mile setback. 2, early development with potential. Lake Alice has a surface area of 1,116 acres with a maximum and a mean depth of 12 and 8 feet respectively. Lake Alice has 3 lake park districts. It is recognized as a lake with possibility for some potentially sizable development. It is in early stages of that development and does have a dozen residences to protect. The lower assessed tax value of the residences is reflective of an area in early development. Setbacks will have a significant impact not only on the amount of the development, but also the quality of that development. We recommend a minimum of a 2 mile setback. The third is fully developed. Lake Cochran is a South Dakota spring-fed lake with a deepest point of 24 feet and a mean depth of 13 feet. It has a surface area of 355 acres. Those characteristics alone make it a truly unique asset of the state of South Dakota and a real treasure for Deuel County. Add to that the beauty of the surrounding area with rolling hills and gulches make it a place of real appeal. One lake park district encompasses the entire lake. Today the lakeside is fully developed and evolving with many of the seasonal cabins being replaced with substantial year-round homes. The State Line Bar and Grill, a new State Line Steakhouse, the Prairie Green View Country Club, Woolworth's Restaurant are all located adjacent to the lake. A very desirable public campground with 30 campsites is located on the shore of the lake. It has a complete sanitary sewage system around the lake, and last year with the support of the Gary Fire Department, we have a fire truck and volunteer fire departments on the lake. This development has all taken place without any thought of massive wind turbines challenging the pristineness and solitude of this area. Setbacks will have a significant impact on property values as well as the potential replacement of the seasonal cabins with these new year-round homes. We recommend a minimum of 3-mile setback. Additional reasons to support the 3-mile setback at Lake Cochran is at the November 21st Planning Commission meeting, an Invenergy representative asked the board members to keep the ordinance as they are because they keep the board in control to do the right thing. They stated the board did the right thing in stopping the flying cow proposal because no reputable WS developer would even consider putting up windmills in a recreational area such as Lake Cochran.
Mr. Rude, your time is up. Thank you. Okay, we have Mr. Nichols.
Very quickly, Mr. Chairman, we also own our own wind turbine. My brother and I have been climbing towers for 20 years, so I know a lot about wind turbines. Been up in them a lot of my life. You need to understand how the tax credits work, because I've done this. The tax credit now is a federal tax credit for wind turbines. If they put down 5%, and I know some of your developers are here that want to build here, they put down 5%. They've already bought these turbines, folks. They got 4 years to build them. So if they don't build them in this county, believe me, they're going to be built. And it might be in my county, but they will be built. Don't lose this opportunity. We now have 3 new projects in Lincoln County. We have over 300 turbines now. We're going to get another 300. As a county commissioner, our budget will be $4 million. $2 million of that is paid by the property taxes from the wind turbines. Think of that. And then what it does for our school districts is just as tremendous. So that's what's going to happen. And in Minnesota now, because it's been so successful, we're going to pass a law that requires 50% of our energy to come from wind, because it's the cheapest power in America. It also happens to be clean. And the best part is it's out here on our farms. Now in Lincoln County, the turbines are beautiful. We love them. I couldn't find anybody who's opposed to them. The only guy I've ever found was mad as a farmer who didn't get one. So, and we've got a very fair ordinance for everybody. So it's been a tremendous success story for us, and I encourage you to do this. It's jobs for your children, property taxes paid, which will keep your taxes down, income for your school, and the 50 jobs we have now, those are young families, and they've got kids in their school. Don't lose this opportunity, because if you don't do it, believe me, these wind turbine companies, they're going elsewhere. They will be built, these turbines. Don't lose this.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. At this time, we have Craig Magadance.
Good afternoon, Board. Craig Magadance, Clear Lake. A couple things that come to my mind on this thing. One thing I've been thinking about quite often, and last summer the commission came with a vote to resurface the road past my place. Comes past my place, it's County Road 6, also comes past Lake Alice. Everyone knows where Lake Alice is. We got a resurfaced road. I understand that most of that money came from county taxes. It wasn't federal, it wasn't state, it was county taxes. That's one of the reasons why I think it's important that we do take a good hard look at getting these wind towers in this county. We may have not got the ordinances like we want them because of the people that sat in your seats 30 years ago. Things have changed. We need to change things as things progress. But you people are sitting in those seats to change these things, because the people that sat there 30 years ago didn't get it wrong. They wanted this county to develop any way that we can and make it fair for everyone. So my thought is, if the board would so choose to use a mile setback off of all of the lakes, all of the municipals. This is an industrial, development, and being a mile away from a municipal or a lake park is fair for everyone on the industrial development side. So I would encourage you to either vote no on your zoning proposal or change it to a mile setback. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. At this time, will John Pansky come forward, please?
Thank you, Commissioners, for the time to speak in front of you. I wanted to share just a little bit of business perspective. I've spent all my life in business, either small business or large business. I retired from a very large corporate business. And I wanted to share just some thoughts that I have relative to this business model. The wind industry in particular has a business model that supports the local community in a way no other business does. I've been in large corporate businesses, I've been in small businesses, never seen a unique business model like this that supports the community like this wind industry does. So with that, I'm going to turn the microphone over to a friend of ours, Gary Williams. He's from Lake Benton. He's a local businessman in Lake Benton area, and he's going to share his experience in Lake Benton area.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners. I'd like to take maybe my expression of this, maybe from the business owners up and down Main Street are often reluctant to get involved in situations that be controversial. We have 4 wind tower repair companies in Lincoln County, and they probably employ 60 people. And not only that, but those 4 wind tower companies buy groceries at our local hardware, or at our local grocery store. They buy a lot of their supplies at our local hardware store. They eat in our restaurants. They buy gas at our gas stations. They support the community to a great extent. They're community minded, and all those people live in the community. And one other angle that's not been addressed on this, in a proposal to make you think to be positive about your expression of the industry, is if there's 60 families, 4 children per family, 240 children, times the state aid to school of $5,000 per student, that right there in itself is another essential asset to the community and the towns. So I just encourage you. I realize that both sides of this issue have looked at this in their own sense of what's best for them, and I hope we can take a global approach and come to some kind of a conclusion where we don't let this opportunity slip away from Deuel County. Thank you.
Thank you, presenters. At this time, I'll call George Holborn.
My name is George Holborn. I live near Gary, South Dakota. I'd like to review some of the testimony. Whoops, sorry about that. I'm still George Holborn. I live near Gary, South Dakota, and I'd like to review some of the testimony given by given to the Planning Commission a few months ago. Dr. Olson, representing Next Energy, was asked, can you hear turbines 3 miles away? His answer was no. He went on to say, we just want everybody to get a good night's sleep. A gentleman named Phipps in 2007 reported a study that he did. 45% of the residences could hear wind turbines 2.5 miles away. 20% of the residents could hear wind turbines at 5 miles away. Dr. Olson claimed ambient noise level to be 35 or greater for Deuel County. I don't know how many hours Dr. Olson was in Deuel County, but it wasn't too many. I hadn't seen him here until that night anyway. Let our ambient noise level be independently determined. He went on to critique the Junker proposal. Olson stated Junker's material was old, dated material, sample size was small. But in a written critique submitted to the commission, Dr. Olson cited even older material and a sample size of 16 to support his position. Michael Hankard, Invenergy noise expert, 50 decibels is just fine. I asked him if 51 would be in breach of an ordinance with 50 decibels. He had trouble answering the question. Finally, Michael Blazer come forward, Invenergy's attorney, and they discussed it between them. I asked another time or two if 51 would be in breach. They did agree that it would be in breach. This points out it is preferable to use absolute numbers and not averages if you want to avoid debate and litigation. Michael Blazer went on to say that 35 decibel wasn't even on the horizon. Well, it's been on the horizon since the early 80s. In fact, in 2011, the American Wind Energy Association had it on their website until they pulled it. I asked 2 wind energy companies for independent studies that supported their position. What I received were 2 biased government reports. 2 studies, the authors were cited for conflict of interest. I found one author was found to write a letter of apology for making untrue assertions. One study revolved about a gentleman walking across his lawn. He claimed his cell phone could be charged as he was walking across his lawn since the towers were started up, when in fact he had a 10-year history of mental illness. The experts are unpaid wind farm residents, not paid wind industry experts. Paid wind industry experts are motivated by project approval and only project approval. Thank you.
Thank you, George. At this time, Mike Gibson.
Mike Gibson from northeast Deuel County. I'm a farmer, landowner, and a cattle feedlot manager, and I'd like to defer my time over to Jim Nichols. I'd like to thank the county commissioners for their time and services.
Very quickly, Mr. Chairman, Doyle's handing out to you, and we have printed 50 copies. This is the wind farm on my farm, the wind turbine. Actually, we own it, my brother and I, and it's a big one, 1.5 megawatts. It's 750 feet from my house, because our original zoning ordinance, Mr. Chairman, was 750 feet. And as a county, we believe it's a very good ordinance, but we now go with the state with 1,500 feet. Lived here all my life, 40-some years on the farm, never can hear that wind turbine, never. When you're sitting in the house, you can't hear it. And I invite all of you to come to my farm. I'll take you to my wind turbine, and I do about 20 tours a year. Please come, because I want you to know that noise is not an issue. It just simply is not. Now, if you're worried about noise, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, when I'm running my drying fan for my drying corn, or my neighbor, I can hear that thing screaming, or my neighbors from 2 miles away, but I never can hear the wind turbine. My neighbor, who's a good neighbor, when he comes by with his semi-truck, I can hear that. So I'm sure you don't want to pass any ordinances restricting what we can do as farmers to dry our corn, or trucks that can drive, but noise is just simply not an issue. That's all I can say about that. The other issues in living here, and see how close it is, and Doyle's handing them out to my farm. It's on the west side of my farm. The sun sets there. Flicker is not an issue. We did not have any of these things in our zoning ordinance in Lincoln County, and many counties adopted our ordinance because it was such a good one. These are not issues. And when the sun sets, once in a while I could see it on the wall a little bit, never ever bothers me. And worst case scenario, if you really think it's bothering you, close the drapes, for God's sakes. I know many of you that have a window that faces to the east, you close that in the morning, that drape, so the sun doesn't wake you up at 5 o'clock in the morning. So flicker is just, it's not an issue. No, we don't deal with it, and we don't have anybody complaining about it. Noise is not an issue, and then I know there's something coming up about electricity. I'd like to speak to that, Mr. Chairman. But all of these issues you've heard, we have almost 400 turbines in my county. We're going to build 300 more. Everybody likes them. Gary Williams, who just spoke, he's the president of our bank in Lake Benton. He's helped so many farmers get started into the wind industry. And he came here to speak as a banker, a bank president, what it's done for our county economically, what it's done for our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, speakers. At this time, would Will Stone come forward, please?
Good afternoon, commissioners, ladies and gentlemen. We just spent the weekend in Fargo celebrating the birthday of one of our 7 grandchildren. My daughter and her husband had purchased their dream home about 5 years ago. It was along the Red River. Even the worst flood, the river was still 2 feet below, impacting their home. 2 years ago, the powers that be decided to put a berm through their front yard, impacting their home. They didn't put the berm up and then say live with it. No, they made them an offer to buy them out. After negotiating, they had to find a house similar in age and square footage and present it to the board for purchase. Although it wasn't easy, they adjusted. I do believe that all the commissioners have family. Would you knowingly put your sons and daughters and grandchildren at risk by exposing them to something that is going to make them ill or threaten their safety? No, we will do all we can to protect them. Would you knowingly let them ingest something from a bottle with skull and crossbones on it? Ignore warning labels as how to use projects? Cross a busy street in Fargo when the cross light says do not cross? For about $500 a year, Invengergy will buy from you the right to impact your property. And health and noise and shadow flicker and the property of value. You ignore the warning labels, how to use products. For about $500, wind companies can buy the services of attorneys to bully, mock, and belittle your friends and neighbors. It kind of proves that money has no conscience. People who were willing to participate have had to move from their residence and have now become strong opponents of turbines, realizing the mistake they made. They now face possible litigation for breaking their gag order. That was in their easement contract. We have the opportunity not to make the same mistake. It is a proven fact that wind turbines impact health, although they should. Sadly, they do not come with warning labels. Infrasound interferes with the body's natural biorhythms and cause adverse health impacts on nearby people and animals. A buffer zone of at least 1 mile is required to reduce this element and eliminate adverse impacts on people. Pastured animals would still continue to be impacted and exposed. Wildlife will just migrate from the area.
3 minutes has just gone off, Mr. Stone.
Do the right thing, a mile setback.
Thank you. Cody Kenyon.
Hello, board. I'm Cody Kenyon. I'm from northeast of town. Lived there my whole entire life as a young farmer, trying to work my way up, trying to make it in this tough world. I just want to say that this is a very large opportunity for our county, our community. You know, this kind of stuff can help young folks out, try to make it in this county. Right now, there really isn't much in Deuel County for the young generation to stay. I mean, you look at our population, it just keeps depleting. There's reasons for that. There isn't anything for young folks to do here. What are they going to do? Work in the local grocery store? Well, they can only employ 5 people. There isn't much. This opportunity, they can have wind energy jobs. We can farm around them. That's not a big deal. I farm myself. We farm around rock piles, trees, fences, old building foundations. We already drive around them. As far as health goes, I tell you what, everybody in here's probably got a cell phone. That's probably more unhealthy than the wind towers. All they are is like an alternator in your car. Everybody's got one of them. Everybody's got a car that depletes the ozone. Nobody worries about that. Everybody still drives. This kind of deal is something that we cannot pass up as a community. I'm not saying it's going to be the greatest thing on earth, but nothing ever is. Everything's got its opportunities. Everything's got pros. Everything's got cons. We all got to live with them. That's just the way it all works. We can't change it. The general well-being of the folks, well, tax dollars, that's a pretty big deal. We all got to be able to afford to live here. When you raise the tax dollars so we have decent roads, which we are far from having decent roads. If you don't believe me, come drive by my place for a while. You'll change your mind in a hurry. The roads are huge. If we have decent places around here, people would want to be here. Safety, I don't know. They're pretty safe, I would say. Driving your car ain't very safe either, is it? But every one of you drives one. I don't know. Go look south of us. Has a turbine fell down? Is a blade sticking in somebody's roof? I don't think any one of you has ever seen that in real life. I can probably attest to that. So with that being said, thank you for your time. And just really consider about what's going to happen to our community if you guys push the wind turbines away from this community. We need this extra money for ourselves and for the community. It's very, very important. Please consider that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kenyon. At this time, Susan Norgard.
I'm Susan Norgard. I'm from Arlington, and we are building a new home on Lake Cochran. We started out in February, and it took us 4 months to get our landscaping approved. And over again, the zoning board kept telling me that they had to keep the natural beauty of Lake Cochran. The natural beauty of Lake Cochran. I don't think that included wind turbines, and we sure as heck didn't think so either. And by the time we heard about wind turbines coming, our basement was dug and our landscaping was done. And I told my husband, we need to call a contractor and tell him to stop. I don't want to live amongst wind turbines. I don't want to hear them at night. There's so many things with wind turbines. If you have looked and you have read, and I have done over and over and over again, and I am just asking and pleading you to please protect the people of Deuel County. Please protect the people of Lake Cochran. I am going to be driving 55 miles one way from Arlington, because I'm still going to I'm still going to work in Arlington. We could have built at Lake Ponset. Lake Ponset is 12 miles from Arlington, but we wanted to live at Lake Cochran. We wanted to live there because the lake is beautiful. The water is clear. Lake Ponset has green slime by the 4th of July. They have little shrimp bugs in them. We didn't want to live at Lake Ponset. We wanted to live here at Lake Cochran. If I would have known what I know now, we'd be building a house at Lake Ponset, because I don't want to live amongst wind turbines blading overhead of us. And I did want to address a few things that was talked about. It won't matter if you get all this money from the wind turbines and how it's going to help your towns if there's no one living here, because all we need to do is listen to the people from Toronto. They spoke over and over at the meetings about the wind turbines, and I would like you to remember what they had to say. And I'm not going to repeat it, I don't have enough time. And one last thing, people do not abandon their homes because of wind turbines if there wasn't issues. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, Calvin Meisch.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I would like to waive my time to Jim Nichols.
Mr. Chairman, we have a beautiful lake at Lake Benton. As a county commissioner, we have certainly done everything to protect that lake, and my brother lives on the lake, so you always want to take care of your lake and the people who live on the lake. But we also have turbines not far from our lake, and no one thinks they're ugly and no one thinks they're a problem. So I would invite this person to come to Lake Benton, to our lake, and see all the homes on there. Come to my farm and see the wind turbines, and see the wind turbines right beside the lake. It's not an issue. The other thing, Mr. Chairman, on the cattle issue, I give my pasture to my neighbor because he's a young farmer and I want to help him. So his cattle are right beside my pasture, and they're very healthy. More importantly, my sister's married to Jerry Delaney. Delaney Herefords is one of the most famous Hereford farms in the United States. Every year they win, and they did again this year, almost all the awards at the big show in Colorado, the state awards in St. Paul. They also go to South Dakota. They have the healthiest and best cattle really in the United States, win all these national and state awards, and they have wind turbines on their farm. It does not affect your cattle, Mr. Chairman. Now, very quickly, if you open this up, when you put up a wind turbine, you have struck oil. Please look at this. A wind turbine produces more energy than an oil well. The average oil well in America produces 10.3 barrels per day. The turbine we have on our farm produces 12 barrels, average. The turbines you're going to have produce 18 barrels. So when you put up a wind turbine, you have struck oil. This is an oil field. And we delivered the power without any pollution all my power goes to Minneapolis and St. Paul. Yours is going to go a long ways away because you have a great wind resource here, wind. It's just as good or better than oil. The best thing when I host members of Congress at my wind turbine, I always say to them, what I really like about my oil well, it'll never go dry. My oil well will be serving my kids and my grandkids and hundreds of generations of grandkids, and it's the cheapest power in America at 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Ruby Holborn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Ruby Wadsworth Holborn. I live by Gary, South Dakota. I would like to read an attorney's opinion on the wind leases that are being circulated, dated February 17th, 2017. You have asked me for my opinion on the wind leases that I see circulating. I have reviewed proposed leases by a number of companies, including Invenergy. The biggest problem that I have with these leases, including the Invenergy lease I've seen, is that the company has given itself the right to assign the lease, and upon assignment, it relieves itself of all liability under the lease. This really makes all the obligations of the company illusory. It could assign the lease to a shell company without the assets and walk away. This means, for one thing, that the landowner is bound, and the company really isn't. The greatest concern, however, is that when it comes time to take the wind towers down, the landowner in that situation could be left holding the bag. The landowner ends up relying on the good faith of the company or the foresightedness of the state or the county to have acquired enough money to be set aside to take down the towers. If you did not have an attorney review your contract with you, you may want to do so. If you did have your contract approved by an attorney without any changes, you may want to get a second opinion. This local attorney's warning occurred in Champaign County, Illinois. 2009, Invenergy claimed to bring jobs and income to Champaign and Vermilion County, Illinois. They said, we aren't like the other outsiders. They claimed to be good neighbors. For example, free tickets to SDSU wrestling matches and basketball games. That sounds familiar. 2012, Cal Ridge Wind Farm was constructed. 2013, complaints of relentless noise inside homes. Some homeowners, such as the Ted Hartke family, abandon their homes. December 2015, Invenergy sold 90% of Cal Ridge to the Terraform Power, a subsidiary of Sun Edison. And just 4 months later, April 2016, Sun Edison filed for bankruptcy. August 2016, Sun Edison is hopelessly insolvent. October 2016, Cal Ridge was late on tax payments. Conclusion, Invenergy failed to bring jobs, economic prosperity, and failed to pay its taxes on time. In 2014, Warren Buffett said, quote, "The only reason to build them is for the production tax credit," unquote. It has very little to do with wind and green energy and everything to do with crony capitalism, making the middle class pay for the tax cuts for the wealthy. It ruins the lives of many to make a few people richer. In Iowa, Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway's Mid-American Energy Company
Ruby, your 3 minutes are
has
up. Thank
19
you.
wind farms. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. At this time, Dave Peterson.
Hi, Dave Peterson, farmer, small business owner. I'd like to yield my time to Jim Nichols.
My last time, Mr. Chairman, I promise you that. Now, first of all, I'd like you to look at those handouts you have in front of you. One from the, we're getting 3 new projects in Lincoln County this year. And you can see Hendricks, Minnesota, Ivanhoe, Minnesota. It's going to create 600 construction jobs, 40 new permanent jobs in that part of the county. No one has ever left the county because of wind turbines. People love them in my county. We've attracted 50 new families to work on our wind turbines. That's what we have now, and we're going to get another 40 jobs. Think what that does for our schools. We've lost 3 high schools since I've been there. So please look at that, and you have it in front of you. And the other thing, Mr. Chairman, the car of the future, and it's in your handout, is a plug-in electric. The wind turbines in North Dakota, or the oil fields, will be pumped dry in 27 years. Think of that. If you were getting an oil field here, in 27 years there are no jobs, and the people that I know up there, the congestion created by those drilling the wells, some of them had to move away. Never happened in Lincoln County. But the car of the future, look at that, as an electric hybrid. Think about the future. Think about your kids. We're soon going to be out of oil. And someday we'll be out of coal, and I'm not against coal because we need both. But in the future, this is where your energy is going to come from. And because it's the cheapest power in America at 2 cents per kilowatt hour compared to the 6 cents you're paying right here now for coal from North Dakota, all the big companies, and I've been to Chicago and everywhere in the United States, they're all going to be buying wind energy because it's so cheap and it's so clean. They're going to buy it from somewhere. You have a great opportunity for you here. Get it here, because if you don't, believe me, it's going elsewhere, and it will be. We'd love to have more in Lincoln County, I can tell you that.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Would Faye Stone come forward, please?
Oh, my name's Faye Stone by Gary. The setback for the wind turbine sent to you by the zoning board is inaccurate for the non-participating. We're not against wind energy. We're against having a tower within 1,500 feet of my house. We are not compensated for the use of our land as a debris field in case of a turbine malfunction, ice throw, flicker, or anything which we're not expected to live with either. A good neighbor payoff of $500 to accept our fate is unacceptable. It's a setback that is not from the property line. It also limits me as a landowner and how I'm going to use my land for development. A wind turbine that's at 1,500 feet from my home puts pheasant pens between my house and a wind turbine in an unsafe zone. It would mean I could no longer safely walk on my own property with my grandchildren because anything outside of my house is under 1,500 feet. This is why 1,500 feet is inadequate. We have pheasant pens and buildings located on the edge of our property. Who's going to protect them? Why is the wind company making all the rules? We have lived in this county longer than the wind companies, and our rights are being ignored. We have land without a residence building on it and houses our pheasant stock. A setback of 1,000 feet means we can't expand our operation because of those limitations forced on us. When our pens are compromised by flying debris, ice, or any other thing, who's going to compensate us for a loss of pheasants? This is a livelihood. There are no pheasants, we have no hunting, we have no income. We also have a hunting property without residents on it. According to the current proposals, we could have a wind turbine within 1,000 feet of our property line, and that is under the manufacturer's recommended safety zones. It does not offer a safe place for customers who go hunting. It is who's going to be responsible if someone gets hurt? It's not going to be us. Another consideration is flicker. Would you like to hunt on land with the shadows of a wind turbine going over top of you while you're walking, and then you're going to shoot a pheasant, and here's a wind turbine flutter going across? Imagine turning shadows when you're walking and seeing those. Hunters don't just hunt in the middle of the day. They are out at sunrise and sunset when the flicker is at its peak. People come to spend money. They spend thousands of dollars of experience they can't get at home. Our customers won't be bothered. They'll be bothered with flicker, excessive noise, and possible health risks. They will find some other place to hunt without distractions. Without customers, we have no business. No one's buying gas. No one's paying for lodging. Nobody's buying food. Nobody's going to the restaurants eating. Nobody's buying a license, and nobody's spending money in Deuel County. The hunting season is a month of unpredictable weather with snow and ice and even rain. Is a couple of wind turbines more important than my business? Why are we letting a company come into our county and set the rules? Non-participating landowners are not being given a fair consideration. We can have wind energy in Deuel County, but not at the expense of some citizens for the gain of other citizens. Dollars are talkings, and dollars are not everything. Is the wind company going to monitor our homes to make sure flicker and noise are not above the regulations, or is that burden going to fall on me? Is the county going to reimburse me for the equipment that I have to do to prove this? Implementing a 1 mile setback and a zero flicker for non-participating landowners would eliminate the concerns for our business and our lives. Did a participating landowner have
Ms.
a dream of
Stone,
40 years ago?
3 minutes are up, so thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, Dennis Evenson.
May it please the Chairman, Mr. Yeager, board members, and those that are attending. The best business judgment rule is one of the things that you need to have before you, making decisions on good facts. Research for those facts, proven facts, facts supported by peer reviews and science as good facts. Most opposition to the wind is for aesthetic reasons, really, if they would really just admit it. But the opposition tends to base their opposition on theories, such as health concerns, infrasound, shadow flicker, similar issues. American Wind Energy Association has that letter 9/30/2015. Very good for you to read. Absolutely no health problems. National Association for Regulatory Utility Commissioners, January 2012, 180-page report summarizing all the wind in the 50 states. Very good. No health concerns. Brown County Health, final decision here in January 2016. No health concerns. Safety. Yeah, I heard a lot of talk about safety. Look at that National Association of Regulatory Utility Commissioners on page ES9. Setback 1.5 times is what they require. 1.5 times the height of the tower. That's going to cover all your ice throw. It's going to make it safe, and that's a lot less than 1,500 feet. Liability. The wind companies have the responsibility to have their liability. If they do have some problem, they're going to cover it. Property values. I haven't heard anybody testify about how that affects, just allegations. Now, commit for what is best for Deuel County so we all win. Vote no for the economic development, or vote for economic development, clean energy. Vote no on the ordinance to support Governor Dugard. Vote no on ordinance to support the state of South Dakota. Vote no on ordinance to support CAP 2020X, investment for our development. Vote no on the ordinance to support the wind industry, encouraged by the state of South Dakota to develop in Deuel County. Vote no on ordinance to support Inva Energy. Vote no on ordinance to support Avangrid. Vote no on ordinance to support NextEra. Vote no on ordinance to support all the landowners who have already signed based on the current ordinance. Vote no on ordinance to support the Deuel School. Vote no on ordinance to support the townships. Vote no on ordinance to support the county. vote no on the ordinance
Mr.
because there's a lot of
Evenson?
spin-off effects coming.
Your time is up. Thank you. Next on the agenda, Dan Litchfield.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dan Litchfield. I'm a wind farmer with Invenergy. We have a 15-year track record of developing projects, and our experience guides us to do things the right way. We have a lot of respect for all of the neighbors of our project and the entire community. We're trying to demonstrate that by being open about our project plans, having a local office, having a website, having a social media page so we can engage in these discussions. We believe the ordinance is working. We're very excited about potential for investment and development in Deuel County. That's a great site for wind farming. We have seen a tremendous positive reception from area landowners. Hundreds of landowners have entrusted their land with us, and we're going to work with them and with you to develop a wind farm. Landowners have talked to us about decades of fighting the wind that howls over their farmland, and they relish the opportunity to harness it and harvest it, and looking forward to seeing turbines turning in the morning. We've talked and offered agreements to any landowner who wants to meet with us. Some, of course, reject that, but a lot have joined. I've been in the wind industry for 9 years. The sky is not falling. I've worked with projects that have been built and operating just fine. It is a terrific fit with agriculture, and it is a terrific fit with rural residents and neighbors. Thus, the Deuel Harvest Wind Farm is the name of our project. There's lots of widely distributed benefits. Farm revenue for the landlords who've entrusted their land with us, taxes, tax revenue that will tremendously benefit your schools and other local taxing bodies, local jobs, and the recycling of those dollars recently. You have a tremendous opportunity here in the county with your access to the electrical markets with the brand new transmission line. We want to know what is the playing field, and now there's a motion we're here discussing today to change the playing field dramatically. We request a downvote on the Planning Commission recommendations. We believe the ordinance is working. You've recently denied a project that was not determined to be a good fit for your community, and that's terrific. We look forward to presenting a project to you for your detailed consideration, exactly where things are going to be and exactly what predicted sound levels and everything are going to be. We just need to know what the rules are. We will continue working with hundreds of Deuel County landlords and everyone else in the community to make this project as best as possible. And I want to remind you that we have, as Mr. Nichols said, wind energy is really affordable now. But it is a very competitive market. There are other markets in South Dakota, North Dakota, and of course Minnesota that are competing with Deuel County to host these wind farms. So if you change the ordinance and make it more restrictive, you add costs to the project, and the project might not get built, and that takes away all those potential benefits to your entire community. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Litchfield. At this time, Dale Roth, please.
I'm Dale Roth. I'm a farmer over by Astoria. Been here 41 years. I oppose any changes to the current land setbacks. I oppose it. And I want to give some numbers why. I first came to Deuel County when I worked for the SDSU as a research economist, and that's what I'm speaking of now. I've been a farmer for 41 years. Prior to that, I worked for SDSU. I worked for private firms. I was up in this area, and we did an economic development study with what was called Rural Planning District, and later become First Planning District, and we helped them expand to their current size. So this is really nothing really new to me. I'm going to just skip over, paraphrase some of the things that I've handed out to the commissioners. Within the zoned area, I counted 111 landowners who own at least 100 acres. So they're in it for the living. They're not in there just as a residence. Out of those 111, 37, at least 37, are operators. They own and they farm, they ranch, they live there. 37. And I talked to someone here from Invenergy, and they told me that within the zone area, they're estimating maybe between 45 to 60 towers might be built if the zoning was disapproved. So I said, well, let's take 50. Let's be a little bit conservative. So suppose 50 towers were eliminated. I'm just going to paraphrase because I'm going to run out of time. Each tower is budgeted to pay each landowner $12,000 per tower per year for 20 years or more. $12,000. Let's put that in terms of one family. Suppose Willis out here got one tower, or Mr. Peterson over here got one tower. What would that mean? Well, we're farmers, we budget, because we get our money at a chunk at a time. That's $1,000 a month. $1,000 a month. What can you do with $1,000 a month? You got family? You got family. You put your kids through school, you buy clothes, some groceries. And there's a fellow over here said some of the starter farmers need a little help. You've got $12,000 guaranteed. I farm for livestock and with grain. I never had a guarantee. Here is guaranteed $12,000 a year for 20 years, maybe more. If the ordinance is passed, they're going to lose as much as $600,000 a year that normally would be paid to farmers and
Okay, Mr. Ross.
landowners. Thank you very much.
Your time is up. Thank you. John Henslin.
The more I listen, the more I'm confused, to be honest with you. I'm probably the only guy talking here from Lake Alice that actually lives in the Lake Park District. That Lake Park District was approved in 2010. There are 25 lots out there. They sold within 2 years. So there is a big demand for people to have lakeshore property. I thought, according to the recommendations made by the zoning board, that we were looking at 2 miles for Lake Alice as far as protection area. I heard there was talk for moving it to 1. I'd like to have it protected. I'd say vote in favor of that. However, if it does go to 1, I can understand that too with my neighbors. And the only thing I'd ask then, if it does go to 1, Vin Energy says there's no change in the value of my property. However, I thoroughly believe that the closer the wind towers get to my property, the less value my property has. But if they say that there actually is no change in value to the property, pay me for the property. Sell it to somebody that wants to live by a wind farm. That's all I ask, and then my neighbors can have those extra 15 wind towers that they were talking about having. We built out there to retire. I love the area. It is quiet. It is beautiful during the daytime. It is beautiful at night. I don't know what those wind towers will do. I've seen them. I've drove up by them. They're not that beautiful, to be honest with you. There's nothing that I'd really want to have in my yard. They do make noise, and I don't want to have to go inside my house because it's noisy outside. And I don't want to pull my curtains. I want to be able to look out. I want to live out in the rural area by that lake. But if you really want to move close, buy me out, please, and sell it to somebody that wants that place, because there must be people that want it. But you know, I haven't seen any advertisements for properties other than saying close to schools, close to parks, close to to public transportation. But I have not seen any that says close to tall wind towers. Buy it, come take a look at them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Henslin. At this time, Russ Olson.
Thank you, Chairman and Board. My name is Russ Olson. I'm representing the Olson family that has had a presence in Deuel County for 90 years, and we are property owners here. I'm going to address things from a little bit different standpoint in talking about if you were to approve these changes, it is my opinion you are putting Deuel County at an economic development disadvantage in the fact that other counties around you don't change and aren't as restrictive. A wind company or a developer would say, why would I want to go to somebody that's going to be more restrictive than the surrounding counties? And I also want to address it from the standpoint of, I have a fair amount of experience in dealing with local governments throughout the state of South Dakota. I've seen counties, cities that have expanded in their economic development, and I've seen some that have struggled. Some of it has to do with location. Others that have struggled, it's because of some of the restrictive things that they put on businesses. Businesses look at this long down the road, and it isn't just wind. You're going to have other businesses that might consider Deuel County. They're going to go, you know, Deuel County's kind of restrictive. They don't like to deal with business. They don't like to be in the economic development area. They will go somewhere else. The other aspect, with a fair amount of experience from a county standpoint, counties are one of the most restrictive when it comes to taxes. You well know how little revenue increase you guys are afforded each year. That revenue comes from your property taxpayers. You are offered an opportunity, an economic development opportunity that is going to provide you taxes, an outside revenue source that is not restricted by statute for growth or increase in valuation. That is going to be a direct benefit to every taxpayer in Deuel County, not just the ones that get wind towers. This is everybody. You're going to have property tax dollars that you can fix the roads that you are currently one of the counties that spends the most amount of general property tax dollars on road repairs in the state of South Dakota. That would afford you the opportunity to not have to do that on the property taxpayers in this county's back. It would be done from the money you get from development, the wind development corporations. So keep that in mind as you decide going forward. Again, it is my feeling that you should leave the ordinance as it is so that you stay equal with your surrounding counties and keep your economic development advantages as you can by not approving any changes at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Olson. Okay. Okay. We just had one more addition to the list. It's Tyler Wilhelm.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Tyler Wilhelm with NextEra Energy Resources and project manager for proposed project Crown Ridge. Just want to take the time to thank the Zoning and Planning Commission for all the time, the consideration, and meaningful deliberation. There was a lot of really good public comment and also information provided. So I want to thank them for their time, and then also thank the commission as well for your time. I would like to defer to Chris Olson for the remaining time. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, County Commissioners, my name is Chris Olson. I hold a PhD in environmental health. My name was brought up earlier as having submitted a 20-page letter report to your Planning and Zoning Commission, and I did appear here on January 9th to have a discussion on whether or not the ordinance as proposed, the existing ordinance, is indeed protective of health, safety, and general welfare. What I would put to you, Commissioners, is that the 1,500-foot setback distance from non-participating homes is indeed in line with both public health and safety, as well as ensuring that health effects won't occur. The 1,000-foot ordinance would be fine. Most developers, you wouldn't even be able to use the 1,000 feet because of your sound limit. I think the sound limits that your Planning and Zoning Commission came up with, the 45 decibels for non-participating residents and 50 for participating, are again reasonable and certainly look within the scientific literature on public health and safety to ensure that you will have protection of your residents. The other setback distances that you have already in your ordinance on distance setbacks are again protective of ice throw, shadow flicker and the like. And then if you are looking at a shadow flicker ordinance, I believe 30 hours is in line with other counties, it's in line with other states, and it's in line with health and safety principles. The one that I would comment on that I don't have comment on is the lake setback distances. These are setback distances that are in excess of what would be required for public health and safety. I believe those are covered under the either existing ordinance or the proposed change. And one of the things I'd also draw you to is the 45 decibel setback. If you were to use that, you're going to be at 2,000 feet or more from those people's homes. Not every wind tower is going to be 1,500 feet from people's homes. So with that, I think if you are going to look at changes to the ordinance, that most of these changes are reasonable. They're certainly in line with scientific principles and publication, and they're in line in general with what is going on in other counties and states across the U.S. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Mr. Olson and Mr. Wilhelm. At this time, this closes the public hearing portion of this public comment. I've been corrected by our state's attorney. I'll get it right eventually. At this time, we will open it up to the board members to call back any of the public commenters and ask questions of them. So please turn on your mics, fellow commissioners.
Mr. Nichols, would you please come forward? I have a couple questions for you. My name is Gary DeYoung, in case you don't know. I'm the commissioner from the 5th District. Kind of involved here a little bit. Your setbacks from the lake, over at Lake Benton, I think you said it was?
Yes, sir.
How far are they away from the lake?
1,500 feet, because that really, when we started and passed our zoning ordinance, which was copied by many counties, it was 750, but now the state is 1,500 feet, and we follow the state rule. We don't really have a choice, but it's a very good setback, and it's for the whole state of Minnesota. 1,500 feet's excellent.
Okay. So that's, that setback then is not set by you, it is set by the state of Minnesota?
Yes. We used to set it at 750, but now it's the state of Minnesota. And it's
Okay.
worked well for the whole state.
Okay. How tall are most of the wind towers over there?
They are the ones next to me that are 2.6 megawatts are 300 foot tall with a 200 foot blade. So they're going to reach up about 500 feet. What surprised me, and I was worried as a state senator that the big ones would turn out to be ugly, you really don't ever notice the difference, and that's a pleasant surprise. The turbines all look basically the same, and what's really good is they turn at 17 revolutions per minute, some at 1,200. So that's, if it was really fast, I think they'd be kind of ugly. The other thing is it never kills a bird. I've never seen a bird killed. And for those of you worried about birds, please walk home, because your car has killed birds. But a wind turbine, oh yes, your car has, but a wind turbine hasn't killed birds. So they're beautiful, and they're just not a threat.
Okay. Another question for you. This picture, is
Yes,
that your
yes,
farm?
that's my farm,
Okay.
yes it is.
How far is that wind tower from your residence?
Thank you. It's 750 feet, maybe just over, because when I built that, the county ordinance was in effect. Now it'd have to be 1,500, but I never hear it. And the flicker is just not an issue. I'm glad it's close. I can see it running every morning. I wake up and I'm making money. It's running.
I see you have a lot of trees around there, but that, no, okay. But that's only 750 feet, and that
Yes,
was
sir.
your choice to have it there?
Yes, it was. We own it. We built it there, my brother and I, and that was my choice, and it was a very good choice. I'm glad I did.
Okay. Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Fellow board members, any questions?
Okay, now it's on. For Jim Nichols.
Yes, sir.
Was there any other complaints from any of the neighbors that you had?
No, and that's the nice thing.
Before or after?
When it first started, we were a little bit afraid because they were new. There were no wind turbines except a few in California when we passed our law. Lake Bend, Minnesota became the largest wind farm in the world. And all of our turbines were, there was one prototype when we built them, but it's turned out to be far better than we ever expected. And I really couldn't find anybody to come here today with me that was opposed to wind turbines. It's the best thing that happened to our county, and it's As a farmer, and I have great crops, it's my best crop because I can deliver it to my customers at the speed of light. Yes, absolutely. We are very supportive, and we adopted our first zoning ordinance almost 20 years ago, and we wanted it to be favorable to the development of wind turbines, and it was. We're soon going to have over 700 wind turbines in our county, and we're glad to have them. And the commissioners feel as I do. Thank you.
Any other board members with questions? No, I'm going to ask a couple questions. No. This one here is for Mr. Nichols, and I've got a couple of them. Being a state senator and a county commissioner, what is your tax structure? Is that similar to the other states on nameplate tax, or what we have from our Department of Revenue, or how is that set up for your, because you talk a little different numbers than what I've gotten from our Department of Revenue.
Thank you, and I want to work with you commissioners, and I've testified in peer on this. I've testified in a dozen states because as one of the first authors of our wind project, which is so successful in our state now, by law requires 25% wind by 2025, and a bill has just been introduced because it's so successful and so popular. We're trying to go to 50% of our from renewable energy wind, and of course we're very, and as the Ag Secretary, I got our ethanol bill passed, so we're very dependent upon renewable energy, and it's jobs for our state. But let me talk about the taxes very quickly. And I say this as a guy who owns a wind turbine. The first thing you do when you own a wind turbine is you take accelerated depreciation. You depreciate it in 5 years. You can take half of it up front. Now, the big companies started to do this to us. After your turbine is depreciated, you claim it doesn't have much value. So you want your property taxes to go down. And that started to happen. Well, I went back to my colleagues in the Senate because I served on the Senate Tax Committee. I said, we got to change this law. We got to base it on production, which is the fairest way. And the turbine owners didn't oppose us because they don't for sure know what their taxes are. So all our taxes are based on production. And our tax is basically very much like yours right now, the amount. But it'll never go down because it's all based on production. Our turbines have been running for 20 years, and the production is exactly today what it was 20 years ago. You don't lose production. If you have a problem with your gearbox or generator, you replace it. So I want to work with you more and your state to get your tax based on production, because then it'll never go down. It'll be the same for 40 years. And I'm hoping that happens, and I've already been to peer on that issue.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Nichols.
Yes, sir.
In this article here, it's got that there was a check in the amount of $7.2 million.
Yes, sir.
That was presented to the counties of Cottonwood, Jackson, Lincoln, Lyon, Meeker, Murray, Nobles, and Pipestone and Rock.
Yes, sir.
Not being acquainted with the counties of Minnesota, which one of those are you in?
Well, Lincoln, sir.
Lincoln, okay.
And we were
now,
the first.
Of that 7.2 million, how much did Lincoln County get?
1 million, sir.
1 million.
And we now generate, just so you know, that was a couple of years ago. We now generate $10 million a year in property taxes and about $10 million to the farmers. So since we built our wind turbines, we have received $200 million of new revenue that we didn't really know was coming. So now my point is, after the new ones are built, we're going to get $2 million of property taxes in Lincoln County on a budget of $4 million. It's half our budget.
Okay. Of the $1 million, how much of that goes to the schools and how much of it goes to the townships?
Thank you. That's a very good question. Not enough. And thank you. You're great. And I want to commend you for that because of the way you divide your taxes. When I went to change the law to the production tax so the tax wouldn't go down, and I got it through my friends in the Senate, the House slipped in an amendment, thanks to a county commissioner, that the taxes almost all went to the counties. And I don't like that, and I've been trying to change it, and we should change it. But the difference between Minnesota and South Dakota, all our school aids are paid by the state of Minnesota. We don't have local property tax going for school aids, so we're a little bit different. But your tax is much better for your schools and townships and counties, and I commend you for that. We don't want to change our production tax because we don't lose it ever, but we need to change exactly where it goes. Now, it's harder to go for school aids because the state pays it already anyhow.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Nichols. This question from me is from Mr. Gast, please. When you gave your presentation and stuff, I want you to clarify trespass zoning in ordinances, where you come from with something like that, please.
Right, trespass zoning, as defined, essentially, the best way to explain it is in those handouts that I mailed to you, those pamphlets. They show normal zoning to the property line versus normal zoning to the residence. Trespass zoning in the sense that if the setback is to the residence, the shadow flicker, the noise, the general nuisance is still across the property, through the property up to the residence. Therefore, there's a trespass from the wind tower that's spinning and casting shadow flicker and noise onto the property versus just at the residence. If you set the setback to the property line, then the wind development has to be zoned or structured such that the shadow flicker, the noise, etc., is measured from the property line instead of the residence.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. Mr. Rude, would you come forward, please? I don't know if it was you, Mr. Rude, or one of the other presenters from Lake Cochran, but how many full-time residents do you have out there?
We have two. We have 208 residents. Are they full-time? No. The percentage of that are full-time, you know, Dennis? Guess? 15%? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I understand they're paying taxes and stuff like that, but I mean,
Yep.
who, I'm wanting a percentage of, or a number of full-time residents out there. That's what I was just getting a clarification.
Because I'm a resident of Deuel County,
yeah.
and I'm there about 7 months a year.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And thank you, Dennis. I got one other question here. Let's see. One thing, as an ag producer, Nat, we talk about public safety, and I don't know how many ag producers utilize that. Aerial spraying. Anybody presented anything from the ag producers or from the ag development? Would you like to address the safety concerns of the aerial sprayers and that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Dennis Stevenson, and I'd like to defer to Jim Nichols. He lives down there where the towers are. He watches them spray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm a farmer. It's what I do full-time, and I do the work myself. Obviously, I do aerial spraying. We all do, especially for the soybeans when we're worried about the problems we have with the soybeans as they're growing. And it's a concern. I won't deny that. We have an excellent local company that sprays, and thank God they're very much aware the turbines are, and they watch for them, and so I've been out there watching them spray them, and so they're careful to stay away from the turbines, turn at the right time. But we still have a tremendous amount of aerial spraying goes on in our sprayers. We've never had an accident, and they've been careful, but I'm not going to tell you that it doesn't create a problem for those guys in those airplanes, because it does.
All right, thank you. Okay, now let's see. Mr. Olson, would you come up forward, please? This one. Yeah, oh, sorry about that. Mr. Russ Olson, sorry about that.
Yes.
You were talking about county dollars and stuff like that being outside the cap. My understanding was most of this production tax that the counties get is under the cap.
Mm-hmm.
Clarify
Yes.
if I'm wrong on that.
No. What I was talking about was the limitations that counties are under as far as how you can increase your property taxes is based on CPI and growth. And so, you know, knowing from Deuel County standpoint, I believe, and you guys will know better than I, but your the CPI was 1% this year. Not sure what your growth is. I'm sure Pam knows, but One of the things from looking at county governments throughout the state, they are the most restrictive when it comes to how they can increase their revenues. You have municipalities that have sales tax. They can add fees. They can do different things. Schools have federal grants, state aid. Counties primarily rely on property taxes. That is your major revenue source. Now, this coming in is going to basically be a new revenue with new development, new people coming in that's going to increase your base. Now, as far as the equalization factor, it still will not affect your property taxes. I mean, from the standpoint of your limits and your statutory limits, those will still grow at the same that they always have.
All right, thank you. I like the clarification because you kind of confused me a little bit there, because knowing of what, from going out there when we had the summer work studies and all that stuff, some of this stuff that came up there, and I know right now we set with 19 sources of revenue, but that's all under the cap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But again, the cap in the statute is your property tax cap.
Okay.
That's a statutory cap that limits your growth on that.
Mhm.
Your other revenues come into you for your decision to make
Mhm.
what you choose to spend them on. And you did mention that the study that was done in that summer study, that was one of the primary things that came out of that study was how restrictive counties are in getting their revenues. They just don't have the capability that other entities do.
All right. Thank you, Russ. At this time, I'm going to open it up. Any more board members have any questions? Commissioner Rhodey.
Right, right. Nearest wind tower is about 5,000 feet from our front door.
Now, if, in your estimation, if we built, had the setbacks 2,000 feet, would you still have built that house there?
No. No, when we were looking for acreages in the area, in that southern Deuel County area, that was one of the considerations. You know, how close are the wind towers? And there were several acreages that would have been suitable, but for the wind towers, so.
Just trying to get a handle on how far, we can still get new residents.
Yeah, like I said, they're 5,000 feet from our place. You can hear them. You can't hear from inside the house. You can hear them standing outside the house. My in-laws live a half mile to the south of us. They're about 3,000 feet, and it's certainly more pronounced in their front yard.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gass, just a minute, please. Follow-up question on Commissioner Rhodey. When did you build your structure?
We built, it was a year ago this December, so we've been out there for a year and 3 months, 2 months.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more questions from board members? With that, that concludes this part of the public hearing, the question session. At this time, we'll take a 5-minute break to stretch and whatever. Thank you. Yep. At this time, we have been requested by one of our board members. He wants to make a little presentation. Would everybody be courteous and respectful of him, and please take your seats. Thank you.
Now, when I get done talking, please don't rush the podium. No. It's been a tough 4 or 5 months. I attended all but one of the meetings that was held. The very first meeting that was held at Lake Cochran, I did not attend, but I attended every one of them since then. And knowing that at some time in the future, this decision on the setbacks was going to come down to the county commissioners. And I'm one of 5, and it weighs kind of heavy on all of us. I wake up in the middle of the night not to go to the bathroom, although sometimes I do. But it's the thing that pops into your mind right away. What do we do? How do we make everyone happy? How do we please all the landowners? How do we please the people that live at the lake? How do we please the people that don't want the wind towers? You know, it's just a lot of things to consider, and it's not an easy decision. And if you think it's easy, come up here and sit and go through all these things. I've got probably a 3-inch stack of letters, emails, things that I've been handed, that I've tried to read, and I've tried to read them all. It's just tough. But anyhow, going on to what I come up here to really say, back in November at one of the meetings, I asked Russ Olson, who was employed with the South Dakota Department of Legislative Audit, to figure out for me what the revenue would be for the county for one 2.5 megawatt turbine in the Invenergy wind farm. Now, this is the one up north, just that particular one. These figures, according to Russ, are based on a standard efficiency factor of 40%, which Russ was told when he asked for information on this. And here are his findings. Now, this is for one wind turbine for 1 year. And I know you've probably heard these things before, but please don't let me bore you to death. Deuel School is going to receive a little over $4,100 a year. Deuel County is going to receive like $2,900 a year. The townships where these turbines are constructed is going to receive about $1,250 per year. And on top of that, the state is still going to get $3,150. Now you add that all together, that's $11,445, give or take a buck or two. And those figures are based on an efficiency factor of 40%. So the income could be higher. So if 120 wind towers are constructed only in the northern part of the county, these are going to be the annual totals. Deuel School is going to get about $500,000 a year. The county is going to get approximately $348,000. The townships about $150,000. And the state, bless their hearts, are going to get $378,000. Then too, there's the lease payments that the wind company is going to pay to you landowners. And when I wrote this, it was right before, I think it was right after Donald Trump got elected, and I put in his comments out here, the amount that the farmers are getting are a much bigger secret than what Donald Trump was going to do when he got elected president. And it is. Nobody, I don't know whether that's in the lease or what it is, but nobody's saying anything to anybody. I've heard all the way from 8,000, I've heard 10,000, today I hear 12,000, and I even heard a vicious rumor that some were getting 25 to 40,000. Well, that's a lot of bucks. That's a lot of money. Now, have you ever considered how big a 2.5 megawatt turbine is? from the base, and I got this right from Mr. Litchfield at a meeting we had up at the county commissioners meeting. The actual tower height of the turbine from the ground to the shaft in the turbine is 295 feet. Now, you've all been at a football game. That's 5 feet less than the length of a football field. 5 feet less than the length of a football field. Okay? Now, if you lay that turbine down on the field, it gets kind of long, gets kind of tall. Now, in addition, you add 190 feet for each blade. That's each blade, not all three of them, each blade, another 190 feet. So you're up there at 485 feet. That's one football field plus another 160, or plus another 60 yards. It gets right up there. And in the North Farm, there would be 120 of them. Now you talk about a 1,000-foot setback. I measured off 1,000 foot. I went from the stop sign on Highway 22 west on Highway 22, right at the junction out there of Highway 15 and 22. I measured 1,000 feet going west. I don't know if you all know where Bruce Kittleson lives, but he lives the fourth house. He lives right on 5th Avenue. And I invite you to drive out there today. From the stop sign to that road is 1,000 feet, his street. That's 1,000 feet. And at the end of that 1,000 feet, you're going to build a 500-foot tower. Now, if that tower would ever blow over and land on the road, you'd only have a 500-foot area there to drive on. Of course, that's not going to happen. But it gives you an idea of how far 1,000 foot is. I measured off another 250 feet and another 500 feet. The 250 feet went to the east edge of the driveway on Lonnie Boudal's house, and the 500 feet, the 1,500 feet went to Van Schiffelbein's mailbox. It just gives you some idea. Now, I'm just going to give you this information. I'm going to give you this for your own information. The life expectancy of a wind turbine is 25 to 30 years. You've probably been told that many times already. I dare say, as I look around the crowd, a lot of us aren't going to be here in 25 to 30 years. That'll make me 100. I don't think I'm going to be here. Maybe won't even care anymore when I get to be 80. I don't know. But anyhow, so you want your wind turbines on your land. You will be looking at them for as long as you live. For as long as you live. And as long, if you leave the wind farm to your kids, for as long as they live. That's a long time. When the wind turbines are constructed, every day you walk out of your house, you're going to look at them. I live in town. When I walk out of my house, I'm going to see them. You know, I had one guy call me, lives down in Brant Township. He says, Gary, I don't like them. I don't like to look at them, but I'm going to laugh all the way to the bank. He's got a point. So, will they make noise? Those who live by them in the southern part of the county say yes, they do. You know, they say an outboard motor makes more noise than a wind turbine. That could be. But hey, it wasn't that long ago, probably within the last week to 10 days, the wind was really blowing here in Deuel County, and you heard it. I mean, I laid in my bed, and I heard the wind blow. It was probably blowing 35, 40 miles an hour. I heard that. You're probably going to hear the wind blowing through the wind turbines. It's only natural. It's just something that's going to always be there. And it's going to be there 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. You know, again, I'm not against wind energy. I'm not against the wind towers. God love the farmers. I was in business for 40 years, and when you guys had good crops and you made money, the business people on Main Street made money, and they advertised in my newspaper. When you guys didn't have a good year, no, you tighten your belts, we had to tighten ours too. You know that if you put these up on your land, and again, I'm just telling you this. I don't care if you do or you're not. You know, if you put them up there on your land, you're going to have them forever. Yeah, you'll get a check every year. That'll be nice. You're going to farm around them. So some of you have told me that we don't want them because we've got our land set so we can farm a half mile or a mile or whatever it is the case might be, so we don't have to go around anything. That makes sense, I guess. But again, those of you who want them, you know, you're going to have to farm around them. Will it be an inconvenience? I suspect it probably will be. Of course, you're going to get a check at the end of every year. Is that going to make it worth it? I don't know. I can't answer that. I can't answer that. Once we adopt an ordinance, put our name on the dotted line, there will be no more changes. That'll be it. Once we put our name on the dotted line, the people will start moving in to construct these things. And they're not going to be built overnight. It's going to take a while. But again, they'll be there. They'll be there forever. That's why we, and I speak about we, myself and my fellow commissioners, we feel we have to get this right. We have to establish some rules and regulations that we can all live with. I'm one that believes in compromising. I always have and I always will. Compromising allows us to come away from a problem or a disagreement, knowing that I received not everything I wanted, but in giving up some of my demands, so did the other side. We both walk away from the table, maybe not completely pleased with the outcome, but then neither did the other side. You know, we can still be good friends, we can still be good neighbors, we still have to live together. This is still Deuel County. It's a great county. I've lived here for about 50 years, and this is my home. On one of the handouts I received, there was a heading that said, "What have I done?" It was about a farmer, I think, Iowa, Illinois, wherever the case might be, you know, that wrote about how he wanted wind energy on his farm. He talked his neighbors into it, and after he got all done with it, he wasn't very happy with himself. So he wrote an article, "What have I done?" The story made me think a lot. You know, it did. Hopefully, when we get this all settled, and we get something we can all live with, that we can all write an article and puts a heading on it that says, "Look what we accomplished by working together." I thank you for listening.
I'd like to thank Commissioner DeYoung for his insights in that, and I think that echoes a lot of sentiments that we have board members have. Because like he said 50 years. Myself, I've been in here 60 years in this county. I'm kind of like that tree. My roots do go down. So I'm still around here and try to help the community. Thank you. At this time, the board members will be moving their tables around so we can discuss the different aspects of these wind ordinances, proposed changes among ourselves, and the mics will be open. So everybody listen up, please. Be courteous and respectful of what we're doing. Thank you. Make sure the mic.
Oh, I didn't grab, I just grabbed a few. You want me to get a couple more? I figured somebody.
At this time, we'll look at the 5 bullet points of what the recommendations are from the zoning board. And one of the first ones was on the setbacks. Their proposal was 1,500 feet, not less than 1,500 feet from both participating and non-participating. I will open up to the board members for discussion. I don't care. It's on.
Going back to what I said in my remarks there, I like compromise. And the Wynn people say they can live with 1,500 feet, and I think all 3 of them said that. We have people who are in the non-participating group that want a larger setback, and they've asked for 3,280. Again, I like compromise. I would like to see a half-mile setback for both. Now, again, before you rush the speaker, let me explain this. In the participating landowner part of that, you would be able to maintain a waiver to place a turbine on your land wherever you would like, probably starting at 1,000 feet. So you're getting your 1,000-foot setback, but again, the setback would be 1/2 mile for the non-participators.
Would that be from the property line or just from their place of residence?
I would like to see it from the property line. Now, I don't know if that's a possibility or not, but that's where I would come from, is from the property line. That way you get away from the trespass thing and stuff like that. Again, I'm not trying to bend one way or another here. I'm looking for a compromise. I don't know all the answers, trust me. I'm only suggesting.
Any more board members' comments on this discussion?
I would agree with Commissioner DeYoung that I've had a lot of conversations, and even farmers and non-participants. Some say mile, and some say leave it the way it is. And I would say that, you know, we got to be compromising here. And I would say 2,500 feet is probably, from the property line, is probably a good place to start. Okay, half mile, yeah. I had wrote down 2,500. But
yeah, half mile is actually 2640. So
that would be all right.
Is that, do you like Commissioner Dumke clarification on that? You said property line, Commissioner DeYoung?
Yes.
Okay. Not residents. Okay. Other board members. Right now, this is just a discussion part. I have not asked for a motion of amendment or anything like that to amend ordinance change or anything, because we're still on consideration right now. Board members?
I would like to hear what Lynn and Deanne think about that.
No, I like that idea from the property line, like Commissioner DeYoung said, get away from that trespass zone.
I like the half mile. I think that will eliminate some other problems. Could be developed later, and I think it's reasonable.
Okay, no. Commissioner Peterson, would you repeat your statement, please?
I was saying I like the half mile from property line. I think it'll alleviate a lot of problems down the road and is a good compromise.
Is this now, my question is, because you also mentioned a waiver for participating on this. Is that included with this or not, Commissioner DeYoung?
Well, the waiver would be would have to be an automatic thing on the participating landowner.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and
Can you explain that, John, the waiver?
and I would like to have our state's attorney, if he would, John, explain the waiver part of it, if he would.
Well, I'm not sure I can explain what's in your mind.
No, nobody can.
But let me see if I can parse it out. If you're saying, I thought I just heard you say that would be automatic, and so I need to have you to better define it or explain whether you want the setback to be the requirement with a waiver permitted, or whether you want to say that the setback only applies to non-participating and the setback for participating is 1,000 feet. That seems to be what you're really getting to, and everybody, if they sign the contract, they know then that they're waiving the setback down to 1,000 feet, and it would be, I think, unnecessary and maybe redundant to make them sign a waiver to make it down to 1,000 feet. But part of what you're saying, you seem to be asking for them to require a waiver, but then I also heard you say it'd be automatic. So I'm not sure what your thought process is, but from my standpoint in helping draft it, I would say that it would be better, at least in my legal judgment, to say if you're going to sign a contract to have towers or to agree to have the towers on your property, you're agreeing to a setback down to 1,000 feet, and there wouldn't be a separate waiver. That in effect would be the waiver. So.
Okay. That would allow them to have a turbine at 1,000 feet or 1,200 feet or 1,500 feet or wherever the case might be.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Now, I don't understand all the legal.
I'm not sure that those
Thanks,
are
John.
really legal questions, but I'm happy to share my thoughts about that.
Thank you.
I would ask, though, that, because I expect that there needs to be some further deliberation of this, when you're speaking about a property line, you have to take into consideration that there are going to be people that own large tracts of property that don't have any residences anywhere near them, and you're creating a setback from that property line, no matter where it is, if you include a half mile from a property line. Now, I'm not arguing one way or another, I'm just making sure that you think through that part of it, that if we're talking about property line, then we need to make sure we know that it applies to all property lines and not just property lines around a residence, because if it's property lines around a residence, then we need to start talking differently than what we're talking right now.
No, my thoughts are, from the property lines, whether there's a residence or whether it's a 620 acres or 640 acres of all grass. Again, my thought.
My thought was that in case they wanted to expand, say they want to put something closer, you know, to that property line, they would have the ability to do that then without, you know, having that to deal with that 1,000 or 1,500 foot setback.
Yeah, well, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page on that.
I guess, well, our State's Attorney Knight and Commissioner DeYoung, I guess I kind of scuttled my brain just a little bit on that one when you were talking all property lines. Isn't the point here to protect, looks like to me, you're protecting the non-participating with this 2640. And
well, I was talking about non-participating property lines.
yeah,
That's
that's okay, and that not all property lines. And Commissioner DeYoung said all property lines, and I guess there's my confusion there.
Yeah, you meant all property lines that are non-participating.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm with you.
Right.
Okay, I'm glad for that clarification, because that one, I was looking at all property lines, and when I'm looking at a map here of all, what I've got up front in here on my iPad here is what we got from GIS, what we took from our GIS at our local county. And what I did was take small acreages, non-ag, I'll tell you the criteria I took, and just to see where the residents, where the majority is, and where the holes are in the map in Deuel County. I realize there's no handouts or anything like that for that, but there are several areas in the county. We do have some big holes in there where we don't have a lot of residents that are non-ag in these things, and the majority of them seem to stay towards the more predominant roads, I should say, the better county roads. There's a few in the township areas, yes. I'm not going to deny that, but I mean, for predominantly, they stay more to the better road system we've got. Any more discussion on what we're talking about? I would, at this time, if there's need for an, if they'd want to amend, let's see, I got to have, what is this now? Rejection of the proposed, the zoning board proposal, and or amend it, amendment to the proposal, is that right?
Yeah, you'd be asking for an amendment to the recommendation.
Okay. I would ask for a motion of recommendation of this by the board members. Do we have a motion?
I guess it's my idea. It better be my motion. So I so move.
We have a second. We have a motion by Commissioner DeYoung and a second by Commissioner Rohde. Any more discussion on it?
Before you vote on it, I'd like to just clarify what it is.
Okay. Please.
Are you ready for me to do that?
Yep.
Okay, so Gary, is it correct to say then that your motion is for a 1/2 mile setback of the property line from non-participating landowners? Yes. And 1,000 feet for participating?
Yes.
And is the 1,000 feet for the property line or the residence?
Property line. Ooh.
No.
Is that 1,000 feet then from the non-owner's property line, if it's going to be 1,000 feet for the or for the participating?
I guess that's what I was gonna get to, is that if you have participating landowners, you already have in your motion a half mile from non-participating. So I'm not sure I understand who you're protecting or what you're protecting for participating landowners by requiring that 1,000 feet.
Well, we should have some kind of setback for the participant.
Well, in the ordinance, the existing ordinance does, and so, I mean, that's what I'm getting at. Are we further modifying the existing ordinance?
So if we have two half sections side by side, two half sections of land side by side, okay, what I'm saying, or what you're gathering from this is that on the participating side of the section, they could be 1,000 feet from the property line, from the non-participating property line.
No.
Okay. Explain it to me. Draw me a picture.
Yeah. Well, you've already created, I mean, your motion creates a half-mile setback from the property line of non-participating residences. Excuse me, property lines. So if you're the landowner that wants to participate, you can't put it on anywhere on your land within a half mile of a non-participating landowner. And then you're also saying that you have to stay 1,000 feet away from your own property line, even if your neighbor is participating. And if that's what you intend, that's fine. I just want to make sure that we know, because right now the ordinance requires just 110% of the height of the tower for participating landowners. Gary, there's a question from the audience.
Yes? Yeah, that's what we're trying to get a handle on up here, is the dynamics of this, and that's why we got it open for discussion. Okay, just a minute here. We got a question over here from Mr. Yep.
I just want to clarify and respectfully, thank you. The current ordinance has 110% property line setback.
Yep.
It's about 550 feet. Going to a half a mile is 5 times that. The proposal from Mr. Yunker was for 1,000 foot property line setback, if I recall. So this isn't a compromise. This is 260% of what they asked for. I did the math. A quarter section is half a mile by half a mile. So if you have one non-participating quarter section, then that setback casts a 624-acre shadow on neighboring land. So this is, if this is what you choose to do, there's going to be no wind turbines.
Correct me, Commissioner DeYoung, if I'm wrong here. When I was listening to the first presentation, not to the last part of it, and what Mr. Knight was talking about, you were talking half mile from the property line for non-participating, right?
Right.
Okay. And then you were talking current ordinance that we have for participating. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, like Mr. Litchfield came just moments ago and stuff like that, if we use that, well, like you said, there's a compromise there. And that would still give your half-mile protection to your non-participating. I think this is more what you're getting at and stuff like that, if I understand it right. And correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're okay. You're going. Keep going.
Okay. For Mr. Knight, does that clarify anything for you?
I mean, I understand what you're saying.
Mhm.
I don't, you know, I'm not participating in the discussion about the policy. I just.
No, but let's put it this way. If there's litigation on any of this, what we're doing up here, you either have to defend us or we'll have to call in another attorney. You know that, and that's whether you can dismiss yourself or whether that happens, and I know that. So we like guidance, and we have to have guidance up here because we ourselves, we're not the experts. We're here working for residents and our voters and whomever. So. Your thoughts? Anybody? Board members' thoughts?
What if we get it over the property line and then just go from, I'm just thinking out loud here.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, from like the yard or
Yeah.
provide a reasonable amount of space for a non-participant.
Mhm.
And how would that be?
Would you, basically on the procedural part, you'd have to see a friendly amendment to go, say, whether you go residence, whether you go the yard size or whatever, that would be up to your decision because as chair, I know I can't make any motions. I know that.
So then what was the setback for participating?
It would go back to the ordinance 1,000 feet and 1.1. The present ordinance that's from the residence and property lines. The wind towers have to be set back at 1.1, 110% of the height of the tower. That's the property line protection. Yep, on the participating or at that time both, but. And then it also would have to adhere to the 50 decibels and
What problems would be presented then if we did that? So, instead of the property line?
that's entirely up to the board members to discuss. It would probably change your foot pattern a bit because of the fact that you're going from residence and then you've got a landmark, you know. Rather than, you know, because yard size or even for acreages, you know, they got 3 acres, they got 5 acres, they could have 15, 20 acres, depending on how they platted it out. So you got a lot of different variations to that.
Well, we got to get a handle on,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I don't think the property line is quite right yet.
Okay.
The house isn't quite right either.
Okay. Okay.
Well, you have to keep in mind that non-participating does not apply to just small acreages.
No.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. I should rephrase that to anybody that hasn't signed a lease agreement. That's non-participating. So that could be a section of ground too.
2640 feet was from the residents, say the landowners that do not want to participate, would this bring it closer to their property line and over it? What about their protection if they want to, say, do aerial spraying? You know, we did get some from that too, that they would like to see it back, you know, at least, what, 1,800 feet or 2,000 from their aerial spraying area.
Yeah, and Mr. Canigator, did you want to present something? Mike.
The county board is doing good. We sat through all these meetings and tried to figure a lot of this out, and I had a good board, and Gary was on there. This part about the setback of a half mile from a property line, in my opinion, as being chairman of the zoning board, is not gonna work. If you're gonna go that route for non-participating, you just about gotta go from the residents. If you go from the property line and somebody owns 25 acres out there, look at how many acres you're cutting off from somebody that maybe would participate but would like to have a tower, but you're cutting them way into way too much property. In my opinion, I can't speak for my board members, but I think you gotta stop, and we compromised already when we went from 1,000 to 1,500. We sat through a lot of that, and the board thought that was a good compromise. You guys can compromise what you want, but I think my board and the board members of my board did a pretty good job trying to come up with stuff, and if you want to change it, that's fine, that's your privilege. Thank you.
Any comments from the board members now to continue the discussion?
Well, like you say, being a landmark engineer, being opposed to from which to measure things. And that's, we gotta do that.
Do we have a friendly amendment to go from residence instead of property line? Okay, is that a motion, Commissioner Peterson? Okay, we have a friendly amendment to go from residence at 2640 from the residence now instead of the property line. Do we have a second? Okay, what it is we're 2640 from the residence, not the property line, so we have a landmark to go by for non-participating. Yes, sir. Just a minute before, I gotta have a second before I can continue on. Thank you. Do we have a second? We have a motion.
I would second that.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Rhodey. Okay, Mr. Evenson.
Thank you, Chairman Yeager. I'm speaking on behalf of the Ag Development, Deuel County Ag Development, and as a landowner. And I visited with Inva Energy and Xterra and Avangrid. You may have killed any chance of wind development in Deuel County. I'd encourage you to visit with all three because I think you've done it. They're going to go someplace else.
Thank you, Mr. Evenson. Mr. Olson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and board members. I guess some comment around what an appropriate distance is, or where, in the discussion that, you know, not to speak for the Chair of Planning and Zoning, but where the 1,500 came from the developers. The question I think the board has to ask yourself, why are you wanting a further setback? And if you do, that's obviously up to the board itself. The 1,500 feet really comes out of knowing that at 1,500 feet, you're going to be at a sound level of give or take 50 decibels. That's where that 1,500 feet originally comes from a distance to a home. That's why developers like Inva Energy, NextEra, and the like, that's typically their design standard, whether participating or non-participating. The second piece of the ordinance that I think that's, or the proposed change that's important for the board, and when it comes to this distance setback, is the 45 decibels that your Planning and Zoning Commission has put forward to you for the non-participating. So leaving 50 for participating, but going down to 45. That 45 decibels will afford a greater setback than 1,500 feet for the non-participating. And so I guess the question is what I would pose to you as you're deliberating or thinking about it, why the further setback from what are you trying to achieve with that? Because really, from a health perspective, what's critical is the sound level outside the home. Distance setbacks are great, I mean, and they're a proxy for the sound, but the sound level is really what you're looking for to make sure you've got a protection of health, sleeping, and that you don't have the adverse health effects that can happen if you are too close. So that, it was just a caution in terms of with the board that 45 decibels, the 50 decibels, that also then gives you a de facto setback, but that's where the 1,500 originally comes from. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Olson. Due to the semblance of time, I know we're not going to be coming to a compromise. And I said we were going to cut this off at about 4 o'clock. Well, we're past it. I'm going to ask for the board for a motion to table. And we will have to continue this discussion. Because this isn't, we're not going to have a marathon meeting. I pronounced that earlier. At this time, I'm going to ask for a motion to table.
I so move.
Do we have a second? Commissioner Rhodey?
Aye.
Commissioner DeYoung?
Aye.
Commissioner Peterson?
Aye.
Aye. At this time, we have a motion to table. We will call is it a recess? How is it, Pam, for procedure? Or adjourn? Okay, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
And Evergreen to
Come up here and talk with me. I just want to ask him something. Thank you.
We are adjourned. We have one motion on the floor, but we do not have a second, so we can have what you asked for, sir. Oh, for adjournment. Oh. No, we don't need that. If it,
It doesn't, I mean, I just want to talk to him.
oh,
It's not.
okay.
Nothing public.
Okay, nothing public? Okay, I'll ask for a motion, second on Commissioner Peterson's to adjourn. Okay. Commissioner Rhodey? Commissioner Dumke? Commissioner Peterson? Commissioner DeYoung? No. No.
You're going to have a meeting. It's open.
Okay.
No. Okay, unanimous. Okay, meeting adjourned.